last so long if I could cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I could show somebody that he's traveling wrong, then my living will not be in vain. Thank you very kindly, Mr. Wilson, for that very warm introduction. To President Flynn in his absence, Vice Presidents, Deans, faculty, staff, students, visitors and friends, ladies and gentlemen, I am certainly honored to be on this prestigious campus. I am certainly grateful that you invited me to participate in your celebration, your commemoration of the life and legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. And in the brief time allotted me, I'm going to reflect on that period of Dr. King's life, where he was thrust into the national spotlight as a civil rights leader. But first, just a little on his background. Dr. King was born on January 15, 1929. Just 19 years later, he graduated from Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. That same year, 1948, he was ordained as a Baptist minister. In 1953, he married Coretta Scott. They later had 4 children, Martin Luther III, Dexter Scott, Yolanda Denise, and Bernice Albertine. In 1954, he was installed as the pastor of the prestigious Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. In 1955, he received his PhD from Boston U. It was later that year that an event would take place that would change the life of Dr. King and his family forever. You see, on December 1, 1955, Rosa Parks took a bus ride. It's amazing what you will do when your feet get tired. On that day, Rosa refused to get up to give her seat to a white man and move to the back of the bus. You must understand that if you were black and you lived in Montgomery at that time and you wanted to ride the city buses, you got on the front and you paid your fare. Then you stepped off of the bus, moved down the side, and re-entered from the rear. The first half of the bus was reserved for whites. The second half was reserved for blacks. And that policy held true even if the entire bus route was through a black community. Blacks often found themselves standing beside empty seats during rush hour. And the black religious leaders of that community wanted to change that policy, at least allow blacks to sit down while the buses are filling up. But those city leaders would not have that. And when Rosa Parks was arrested, those black religious leaders thought they had found the right person, the person with the right moral and ethical background, someone made of sterner stuff, someone who could endure the rigors of a long-out trial. You see, they wanted to take this issue to court. Rosa Parks agreed to participate. So they formed an organization to press this issue in court, an organization that they called the Montgomery Improvement Association, the MIA. And they elected this young minister who had just moved into town. You know how it is, you always pick on the new guy. 27-year-old Martin Luther King, Jr. as their leader and spokesperson. He thought that something should be done on the day of her trial. Rosa was scheduled to go to trial the following Monday, December 5th. Perhaps, something to show their disdain, their disgust, their dissatisfaction with the way they're being treated on the buses. Perhaps a bus boycott. The others agreed. So they hastily printed flyers and posters to announce the boycott. The newspapers, being as tenacious then as they are today, got wind of the story and inadvertently helped out the MIA by printing a front-page story in the Sunday newspaper about the boycott. On Monday, Rosa went to trial, was found guilty, and fined $10. That conviction will later be appealed all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. But the boycott was successful. Virtually 100% participation from the black community. Nearly 50,000 blacks refused absolutely from riding the buses that Monday. In fact, the boycott was so successful that they decided to carry it on for a while longer. So they formed car pools and van pools, and even the black-owned taxi drivers helped out by charging the same amount of money that you would have paid had you been on the bus. But after 10 or 15 days, those city leaders saw that this MIA meant business. So they took them to court, and they won an injunction stating that this MIA had created an illegal transportation authority since they were charging people to ride in these car pools. they decided to carry on the boycott anyway with volunteer contributions. But after a while, these volunteer contributions were not enough to maintain all of these old cars and vans. So Dr. King set out across the country to raise the money needed to carry on the boycott. Traveling with his wife Coretta and his companion, the Reverend Ralph David Abernathy, and his wife Juanita, they found that segregated buses were not the only problems confronting many blacks throughout the South. They often had to sleep in their car because they could not find a hotel or motel that would accept them. They often went hungry because they could not find a restaurant that would seat and serve them. But his travels were successful. He was able to raise the tens of thousands of dollars needed to carry on the boycott. It was on the 13th day of November, 1956, that the U.S. Supreme Court ruled unanimously, upholding a lower court determination that segregation on buses in Alabama was unconstitutional. A boycott, which was designed to last for 1 day, went on for 380 days. The success of that boycott is what propelled Dr. King into the national spotlight as a civil rights leader. Believing that a larger, more comprehensive organization would have a greater impact on civil rights, he and about 30 other individuals, most of whom were black ministers from throughout the South, formed a new organization in 1957, an organization they called the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the SCLC. Dr. King was voted unanimously as its president. That then became the base for his civil rights operation. In subsequent years, participating in numerous sit-ins, boycotts, freedom rides, marches, pushing for civil rights. And as a result of his activities, he was arrested numerous times. In fact, just about 24 times during the 12.5 years he served as a civil rights leader. Perhaps his most noted arrest took place in Birmingham, Alabama in the summer of 1963. Birmingham, Alabama, often referred to back then as Birmingham, was known as the most segregated city in America. Blacks were not allowed to use the public parks, the public pools, not even the public library, to not sit down and eat in any public restaurant. And the local chapter of the SCLC wanted to change that. So they scheduled a series of sit-ins and boycotts. And they invited Dr. King to participate. When word got out that Dr. King had agreed to come to Birmingham, opposition began to rise regarding his coming. Dr. King was saddened to learn that the greatest opposition was coming from the white religious community. In fact, 5 white clergy from various religious organizations got together and wrote Dr. King an open letter. A letter which said in summary, Dr. King, we don't need you in Birmingham. We know that we have problems, but we want to take care of them ourselves. You are an outsider. All we need is a little time. All you have to do is wait. But Dr. King didn't wait. However, prior to going to Birmingham, he sent in the lawyers from SCLC to review all of the laws and ordinances in Birmingham. He also sent in the trainers to train those who would sit in at the lunch counter so that they would be carried out in a non-violent fashion. He also raised a large sum of money to bail out anyone who might get arrested. After everything was in place, Dr. King went to Birmingham. On the first day they sent 6 people to sit in at the lunch counters. They were all arrested. On the second day, 12 were sent. They were all arrested. On the third day, 100 were sent down to sit in at the lunch counters. They were all arrested. On the fourth day, Dr. King said, it is now time for me to get involved. He, along with several hundred others, went downtown and sat in at the lunch counters. They were all arrested. However, Dr. King was not put in with the general population. He was put in solitary confinement, not allowed to see anyone, not his wife, not his lawyer. 2 days passed, and no one had seen nor heard from Dr. King.